love you even more. Now I'm 10,000 miles away. I've travelled all around the world and I've seen so many pretty girls, but all of them seem to know your name. Sweet Caroline, I loved you too long. Sweet Caroline, I loved you too long. Sweet Caroline, I loved you too long.
That's a great track, and it introduces my next guest on the program. No stranger to the music scene here in Melbourne. Dave Wright and the Midnight Electric Band are back in town. They had a hiatus last year, but they're back, a brand new album called HWY, and we've got Dave online right now. Dave, nice to talk to you.
Yeah, hi Leigh, thanks for having me on the show.
That's a pleasure, mate, that's a pleasure. Why the hiatus last year?
Oh, look, a combination of a few personal things. My wife and I had twins a couple of years ago, and that requires a fair bit of attention and responsibility.
Yes,
and then she got quite sick with breast cancer last year.
Oh,
and,
goodness.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that.
No, it's all good now, thank you. And, she's back to her fighting best. But, it just required, obviously, a bit of time out from the band.
Well, I only asked you that because in the stuff I got from you guys, it says the hiatus there, and I thought, well, perhaps you were preparing the album, you see. So, look, I'm sorry to hear about your wife.
No, thank you. Look, the band didn't stop. It was just put on the back burner, and we were still working towards this record. It was just probably put me back 6 months or so, but you know what? It was for the best in the long run.
Well, Dave, family must come first.
Absolutely.
Always.
Yeah.
You're said to be beloved Melbourne rockers and self-proclaimed crash and burn. Why the crash and burn?
Oh, look, it's funny. You sit down with your PR people and they ask you a bunch of questions, and they put together this sheet that they send you guys.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see what they take from an hour-long conversation. And that was how I described my guitar playing style and, the band pretty much. So, I'm a self-taught guitarist. I learnt piano and then taught myself guitar, and I consider myself, I'm not a soloist. I play rhythm, and I just said, it's a crash and burn style. And I think that's what we do on stage as well. We hit it and we burn the place down. So,
they picked up on that.
Yeah, I think so.
Let's go back. 14 years of age, you were playing at a church down at Colac, weren't you?
That's correct, yeah. I'll tell you about that. It's funny, I grew up down in Colac and started playing piano when I was 8, and right when I was just getting to that age where you want to play in bands, 13, 14, grunge was breaking, and you couldn't play keyboards in a band. No one wanted a keyboard player. So the only place I could get a gig was in the local church. So hence I cut my teeth in a Christian band down in Colac.
Good on you. Good. It's often great experience, though, isn't it? You look at some of the great musos, even in America, and they've got that basis of the church singing and choirs and so on. And gee, the careers take off, don't they?
Well, yeah. Look, there's a lot to be said for gospel music, especially in its part in especially rock and roll. So, yeah. Look, I don't regret it. I'm certainly not a religious man because of it, but I enjoyed playing the music, shall we say.
Yeah, look, I think there's a lot of great music in there, and as I said to you, it can be a stepping stone, and it certainly was for you. You said you learned piano, and then you went across to guitar and taught yourself the guitar. Had you studied piano for a length of time to give you that background that you needed for the guitar?
Yeah, I had. I mean, I started when I was 8, and I still play. I took lessons until 18. I took contemporary. I took some AMEB, and then I took contemporary composition lessons from a great pianist down in Colac called Greg Gear, who played with the Army Band and was a composer, and he taught me a lot about composition and improvisation. And I think it gave me a basis. I reckon if you learn piano, you can teach yourself pretty much any instrument. I
think you're right. The piano's a good basis, and I teach piano as well. And I think it gives you that basic knowledge that you need, and you can go pick up a guitar, perhaps a trombone, whatever you want to go and do. If you've got that basis of bass and treble clef, you can go, can't you? You can do
Absolutely, yeah. And it's a very expressive instrument, but I found that it constricted me and my writing style to very
absolutely.
Introspective, ballady type songs, and I needed to get away from that. So when I started learning guitar, it changed my writing style completely.
And Dave, the guitar is so portable too. You can put it in a bag and you're off on the next gig sort of thing, aren't you?
That's correct, yeah. So
bit harder to do with the piano.
Yeah, Yeah, true.
HWY, tell me about it. I love the Sweet Caroline track that I started out with there. It's so beaty. It's got a wonderful beat to it. It's a lot of character in there. Tell me about the album first, though.
Sure, yeah. So it's HWY is an abbreviation for highway. So I've written an album. It's thematic in the sense that it's about being on the road, and growing up in the country, you do a lot of travelling. So it's in my blood, seeing the country from a car window, and I got thinking about this, and I wanted to make a pretty concise record that had a theme to it, and I got obsessed with this idea of driving and what the road means to us, especially as Australians, and how it certainly brings us together, but also a lot of tragedies happen on the road, so it tears us apart. And I worked up 8 songs with these sorts of themes in mind.
Yeah, I read that you do like travel, and you travel a lot around Colac and all the open roads and so on. And I suppose that was the inspiration behind this album, was it?
Well, look, it was. I mean, I left Colac when I was 18. I live in Melbourne. My folks are still down there, my brother, so I get back a bit. But I've travelled a lot with my dad and my brother throughout Australia, doing lots of driving trips up through the centre, and just seeing the greatest expanse of the country just before you. It really does something to me, and I guess a lot of people have that same feeling.
One of the tracks, track 7 on the album, is called Rain. And I dare say you're a bit like me. I love driving in rain. I love going through the Dandenongs in rain, and just to see the trees, dropping now with these little driplets coming off the leaves. It's a fantastic experience, isn't it? And I suppose that was a bit behind this one, Rain?
Yeah, I think so. Look, that's an older song. It's a song I wrote about escaping the shackles of a small town, I guess, or do you really ever leave your past behind? So that sort of was the idea of that song, and I think I was really just trying to write a Tom Petty song, but it didn't really turn out that way. And
what about the Sweet Caroline that we opened up with there? What was the background on that one?
Again, an older song. You've picked the 2 older songs on the record. It's
but they're good though. They're good.
Oh, look, there's nothing. Yeah, it's not to say that they're poor songs, but thematically they're the older songs. And Sweet Caroline's probably again a song about a lost love, or a girl that gets away. Maybe it's through distance. Maybe it's purely fictional. But
not your own experience then.
Yeah, I wrote it very quickly and put it aside, and then we started playing it last year with a band, or the year before, and the horns really changed it into this great taut Motown-esque song with some great drumming in it, and I thought, yeah, we can do this. So it actually doesn't mean a lot to me, but it's a great song to play live. So.
Oh, look, it's got a great rhythm to it, a great beat, and some lovely words in there. And you wrote that in your flat in Elwood, is that right?
That's right, yeah. 2000, I think that was 2006 I wrote that song, so like I said...
So you're going back 11 years.
Yeah.
Let's go back.
It was on the shelf for a while, but yeah.
Well, it's out there for the public now, and it's a darn good track. Avenues of Honour, how did that one come about?
Oh, look, this is probably the song that's closest to my heart on the record. It's the whole Anzac experience is... I mean, it's in a lot of us. A lot of us have some ties to a lot of ties and to relatives that have served and either fought or come back, and they've been forever changed. And my great grandfather was at the Somme. Both my grandparents joined up for the Second World War, and I've always felt a debt to the men and women that have served this country. And you grow up in a country town, and there are these just columns of trees that you see, and you travel a lot to other country towns, and you notice them, and I started thinking about what they meant, and that song came very quickly, but it's a pretty heavy track for me, and the idea that these trees were planted to remind us of what had happened, and yet it's still happening. We haven't really learnt anything, and they're starting to be neglected now. You go, especially in Colac, the avenues seem to be dying a bit. So we wrote that song. I was lucky enough to get one of my heroes, Mick Thomas, to come and play on it from Weddings, Parties, Anything, and Wally, who played accordion in that band, and it's turned into an absolute fantastic track.
Dave, where was the album recorded?
We recorded in South Melbourne here at the audio studio SAE. We were lucky enough to have an unlimited time and budget there, so we spent 2 months tracking this at SAE. Their facilities are there.
Dave, it's a great album. I hope you do very well with this. I see you've got it on vinyl as well.
Yes. It was curated for vinyl, actually, Leigh. The whole point of making this record for me was to make something that fitted onto a record, and it was a concise, two-sided piece of work.
Hence the 8 tracks, I suppose.
Yeah, look, it was, the 8 tracks were merely just because that's all the time. You know, I actually had a double album in mind, and then just the cost of that and the looseness of it sort of didn't interest me as much all of a sudden. So we went with something very tight. I guess my favourite records are Born to Run by Springsteen and Damn the Torpedoes by Tom Petty. They're very concise albums that fit on two sides of vinyl. So the whole point of this was to, I guess, do the same with that, and we were lucky enough to raise the funds to put it out on vinyl. It's 150 copies we pressed, so it's quite limited, but it looks fantastic on yellow vinyl. Well,
I tell you what, vinyl's coming back, isn't it? And it's great to see, because there's something special about vinyl. The sound is different.
Absolutely. For some of us, it didn't really go away. I've always collected vinyl. But,
I did too, yeah.
You put it on, and it's warmer, and just you study the sleeve while you listen to it. There's something quite traditional about it, and some of us still really love to do that. So,
Dave, are you and the group touring?
We are. We're playing shows in Melbourne at the moment to celebrate the launch of the album. We're doing 2 more shows at the Grandview Hotel in Fairfield. And following that, we're off to Mount Gambier in Adelaide, and then back to Melbourne for another show for the Leaps and Bounds Festival, and then hopefully up to Sydney and maybe Griffith as well. So that's the next 3 months sort of taken up.
Well, Dave Wright, it's all happening for you and the band, mate. I wish you well with this, and congratulations. A great sound. I absolutely love it. And look, I have to say, my favourite track at the moment, and I haven't listened to Avenues of Honour, but is Sweet Caroline. So I'll go home and I'll listen to the Avenues and have a listen to that and play it on the station for you as well, mate. I do wish you well. You and your wife, wish her well, and I hope her health continues to improve.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you. I really appreciate that.
Take care, Dave.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thanks, Lee.
Bye-bye to you
Cheers,
now.
mate.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.